morning, everybody. As you're joining another sort of Monday session with Unique Speaker Bureau International and our fantastic speakers, along with our partners, Better Place to Work. You know, these sessions are all about developing a more thriving organization to work in. Better Place to Work kind of builds the culture behind the scenes and partners with great speakers like Ursula to make it all happen. Now, Ursula is a very interesting speaker that we have on the call this morning. I mean, I love stories like Ursula, where she was told categorically that, she doesn't have a great voice. It's not going to work. She was a shy kid as it was with speech impediment and just everything sort of black against her, but sort of applied herself. And look, I mean, she was acting on shows like Seven Delon, Scandal, and then went on to really empower people to be authentic, to have a voice in the room. And I think during COVID, like all of us, she had to kind of make a plan and figure this out. So she was doing her sort of TV commercials, doing her shows, and then had to kind of work out what could I do to have impact. And I think during COVID, more than anything else, those of us that had a voice but didn't know how to use it went more and more into the caves, so to speak. But then she used that opportunity to create confident people and help them raise the game. Now, at Unique Speaker Bureau, all about fuel, ignite, accelerate. Ursula has very impactful presentations when she's doing her keynotes. It's very interactive. She really gets that ignite bit beautifully, along with her communications. And yeah, I mean, I think, ChatGPT has become our friend. So I'm just going to read you out a quick little clip about how we could introduce Ursula and Better Place to Work properly. So we all kind of get so Ursula helps people find their voice and become authentic within the organization, building thriving cultures. And with Better Place to Work, they bring confidence and culture together for real impact. I mean, could we ask for a better introduction? But welcome, Ursula. You are the star of our show this morning, and please take us away.
Thank you so much, Paul, for that great introduction. I love being here with you live on a Monday morning. And for those of you who are watching the playback, hello. Today's theme, it is Spark, Shift, Succeed. And so I really want us to shift things on this Monday morning, shift things for women, shift things for the workplace. And so I want to start off with asking you this very powerful question. And the question is, what does it take for women to play a bigger game and persuade better so that we can have these thriving, powerful organizations, teams, families, communities? Now, the exciting thing is we're going to look at this shift and then we're going to fuel, because at USBI we're all about fueling, we're going to fuel that shift. And I would like to, extend on what Paul was saying a little bit about my own shift, and especially my own shift as a woman. And so 10 years ago, I was this actress going for all these roles, auditioning and being in commercials and soapies, and feeling a little bit frustrated with the representation of women and the types of roles that I had to enact and the way I was presenting women and our agency. And so I did my master's in film and feminism, and I looked at the theories of social conditioning, and if I had to summarize it in one word, it is we become the stories we tell ourselves. And so after that, I could never go back to my old way of being. I just knew too much. I knew too much of the possibilities we have as women and getting our voices out there. So with acting, I started lecturing and coaching and really taking my own agency. And as Paul said, I really, really shifted then when COVID happened. And especially as more women started coming to me saying, we want to be seen and heard and play this bigger game. So here's the good news. The good news is that women are really stepping out there in the boardrooms and organizations. I really am one of those women in Women's Month, because to me, Women's Month is August and September. I go to all the networking events, I go to all the stuff, and it's so exciting to see women claiming their spaces and shifting and really being heard. The bad news is that there's still a lot of work, there's still a lot of conditioning, and there's still a transition, and it's sometimes hard and challenging for women to step into that shift. And so I just want to call it out. I'm going to call out the studies, going to call out the research, what it is that we're facing, because the more aware we are as men, as women, the more we can help people in our organizations, the more we can help ourselves, we can help our families. So the first thing is the invisible scripts that we follow. So Caroline Strauss and I are busy writing a book about how to be powerful and feminine at the same time. And a big thing that we are unpacking that's coming through are the invisible scripts that women struggle with. And this comes from the inner critic, it comes from the imposter syndrome, it comes from our families and the patterns we inherited. So that's the first thing. The next part is the authority gap. And this is research done by Mary Ann Siegert. And what the authority gap is, it's the invisible barrier between male and female voices. And so what it says is that a man and a woman can say the exact same thing, but with a man's voice, it will have more gravitas and more power than a female voice. And what that means is women often have to just work that much harder to up their credibility and their competence when they communicate and get their messages across. So the good news is we're going to look at some strategies that women can do in this. All right, and I see in the comments there are women who are agreeing, and you get it, and I get you. And then the last one is, it's a well-known one, but I just want to call it out because then we take away its power. It's how women often want to be, 60% of women don't apply for roles unless they feel 100% ready for it. And I get that one. I still struggle with that one, where I often don't put myself forward for opportunities because maybe I need more qualifications, or I need more things, or a few more years in the business before I can take that step. So those are a few of the challenges that women face. And so we're going to call it out and we're going to make the shift. So why does this matter? And I love to share stories. So a simple story that happened early in my business was when I was working with a fintech company, and the CEO said, we really need training for one of his execs because she wasn't speaking up. And her narrative was, there are so many loud voices and aggressive voices as well, that what's the point? What's the point of speaking, because it's just a lot of noise? And so we obviously unpacked that invisible script. And a week later, the CEO phoned me and he said, Ursula, she started speaking up and calling out things that none of us saw. And that's why we need everybody's powerful voices, because you can see things and blind spots that others can't. And that was obviously very empowering for her to be able to share her voice in a way that was authentic to her and make an impact. All right. So how we shift, I can share with you over 120 tools that really help us as we play bigger and persuade better. But for today, on this Monday morning, I want to share 3 that we can focus on. And so the first one is in playing bigger. So 2 weeks ago, I did a webinar. Kathy was in that webinar with us, where I had a bunch of women on the call and I gave them 10 shifts they could make. And at the end, I asked them, what is the one they struggled with the most? And the one that everyone struggled with the most, and they messaged me afterwards about this one, is visibility. visibility, being seen and putting ourselves out there. So what are the invisible scripts? So there's the one that says, my work should speak for itself. No, we know that one needs to shift. It's the self-promotion. It's people don't want to sound braggy, but you need to speak for your work, right? Then there's the next one is, if I stay quiet, I'm safe because then I'm not judged. And women have a very interesting relationship with safety and needing to feel safe. And what I often say on that one is they are going to judge you for playing small in any case, so you might as well play big. And then there's the other one that we've already called out, and that's the one where there's so many loud voices, people speak over us. What is the point? And so I love the work from Maxwell, John Maxwell, on leadership. And he's got the second law of leadership, which is the law of influence. And that is really influence. This is persuasion. This is playing a bigger game where we have to be seen in order to have that voice and to have that influence. Now, influence, and this links to visibility, and the shift we need to make is visibility is about value. And so where can we show up and audit our presence and how we can bring value to the table? So this could be in meetings, to ask yourself, where are the opportunities for more value? I often find with social media, with LinkedIn, sometimes when I go, really, why do I want to show up and be so visible? And I have to talk myself through that because I'm giving value. And Ursula, go give your best stuff out there. That is your job. And then there's the next one, and those are the spotlight moments. And here I also see when women transition into more leadership roles where they need to be more visible, spotlight moments are panel discussions, they're podcasts, they are speeches, keynotes, where you media interviews, where you really have to start building on that authority. And this is real. I see how women just ignore those invitations, or they decline. And so we need to start building that skill of stepping out there and doing this for other women, right? And then there's the last one in this visibility chain. And the biggest question that I get in a lot of my workshops, and especially in high-performing organizations, is, there's so many voices that people just talk over each other, so I just need to get my voice, my message out there. It's almost like screaming over each other. So how can we say our say, be heard? And so Marianne has this incredible strategy where she says that you build allies in your team. So let's say Kathy, Kim, and I are on a call, and Kathy, and I know Kathy might never do this, so I can call her out. So Kathy keeps speaking over me. Then, Kim could be an ally. She can say, hey, let's circle back to that thing Ursula was talking about. Let's hear that out. I want to explore that more. What's amazing about this strategy is we don't have to do it alone. So many women think we have to do everything for ourselves and fight for ourselves. You don't. We can have strategic allies, and we can amplify each other's voices. So who's in your circle of steel who can help build your voice? All right, next we're going to go into persuasion. Now, I have an interesting relationship with persuasion. I had to learn about persuasion because I was working with a lot of the banks, with the bankers and their sales presentations. So obviously when we work in the world of sales, we have to know some persuasion tactics. But the thing about persuasion is that it can often feel manipulative and like somebody's pushing their agenda onto you. And I wanted to do this in a real ethical way. And so the way that we're going to look at persuasion is we acknowledge it's important. It's like you're telling your child to eat their vegetables. We want to persuade them. So when you come with your mission for greater good, this is where we really want to enhance our persuasion skills. And so we're going to look at a little framework called CCB. Okay, so the first C is for choice. And the reason we go with choice is we first need to give ourselves permission and choose to practice our skills of persuasion, to share persuasion, to be persuasive. And the reason why I say this is I've done many masterclasses with women and sharing their voices and being heard in meetings. I give them scripts, like I give them frameworks, I'll give it all to them. And then they message me afterwards and they say, but how do I speak up in a meeting? How do I share my voice? And I think, but I gave you the scripts. And then I realize they're not giving themselves permission first. That's that inner choice where we need to allow ourselves. So now that we've allowed ourselves, the next part of persuasion that you can bring in is cognitive empathy. This is fantastic for women because we're very empathetic, but cognitive empathy is not the I feel your feelings. Cognitive empathy is where we bring in the intellectual understanding of meeting somebody where they're at. So it would be about listening to Paul and understanding what matters to Paul and what he values and what his dreams are and his intentions and where he's heading. And then when I can meet Paul from there and understand where he's going, to meet him there, to acknowledge that, and you acknowledge through using labels. It seems, a label is called it seems, it sounds, and then influence and create impact from there. This is a shift in how we can communicate and connect with people, and a whole other masterclass by itself. But I just wanted to share that you meet somebody where they're at in order to be able to change the behavior and the actions that come from that. And that's really inspired by fantastic work by Joe Navarro, Chris Voss. These are FBI negotiators who really deal with some very intelligent crooks. So I love their work. And then the B is in persuasion. The B links to a study done by Ellen Langer. Now, you might have heard about the study by Ellen Langer. It was done in the 1970s, and it says quite a lot about human behavior. And this links to that authority gap in women's voices, why I want to share this one with you. So for those of you who don't know about the study, let me quickly remind you or tell you. So it went back to the 1970s. They did this test to see how can you persuade people. So they would go to the photocopy room machine and ask people if they can cut the line. So they would go, hey, Orla, can I cut the line? And Orla would say no, unless maybe it's Paul. Then she would be compliant. So 40% of the time, people only complied 40% of the time. So it's not a very high rate. Then they gave a reason. Hey, Ola, can I cut the line because my job is on the line? Ola doesn't want me to lose my job. Yeah. She'll be like, go. So 97% of the time, people complied when you gave them a good reason after that word because. Then they thought, what would happen if I gave you just a bad reason or whatever reason? Hey, Ola, can I cut the line because I want to cut the line? 94% of people were still compliant. So this is what the study says. It almost doesn't matter what the reason is or how good the reason is. The fact that there's a reason, it feels good enough to comply. Now, the reason why I love sharing this with women, for two reasons. Number one, it tells us that we can persuade ourselves of behaviors and actions to play smaller for reasons that actually are not relevant. So let's catch ourselves out on those ones. And the second one is, and this is why I love it, is you don't need to over-explain yourself. You can just give the reason and you can keep it short and sweet, because this is what often happens is when we try and over-explain why something is important. So you can just say, hey, it's important because it matters. Eating your vegetables means it's good because you will have strong bones, and you can stop right there. So building your credibility and your competence. We don't have to overdo it. Yay, I love seeing the hearts. And then just our last part in playing bigger and persuading better as women is confidence. And so I love the word confidence. The Latin meaning of the word confidence means confidere, and it's a feeling of trusting yourself. And as women, we have these incredible, strong intuition. I had breakfast with Nikki Bush, who is a mentor, colleague, so much to me. And she was sharing with me about how in her past, when she didn't listen to her intuition, and how she wished she had listened to it. And it was so powerful when she shared that with me, because it helped me learn and just appreciate again my own intuition and to trust that. So let's keep feeding our intuition, trusting the strong gut so that we can play that bigger game. Now, what's to lose when we don't play big? The organization loses. And we miss blind spots, and then we don't get into that space of the spark and the shift and the succeed. And when women do play big, we see that the organization does better and people feel more empowered. In the authority gap study, they even found in societies where there's more equality, men are happier. So it's true. Happy wife, happy life. So I want to leave you with this last thought. And what are your invisible scripts? Or what are the invisible scripts that you're seeing around you? And what is the one that you can change and shift? Thank you, everybody. I know that we are probably going to go into a Q&A. But before that, I just want to say thank you for being with me on this Monday morning.
It's great to have you, Ursula. I loved what you said there when you were talking about, being more persuasive and really trying to, but in the way you approach that is trying to understand what the dreams and aspirations are for the person that you're trying to sort of influence. And I think it's such an important starting block. We're a big believer of that at Unique Speaker Bureau as well. I mean, if you think about it, we're all about trying to make not just our customers, but their stakeholders and their audiences. We're about trying to make their dreams come true. And in a way, it kind of got me thinking that that's kind of like what you do, really. You help people. There's a lot of people out there, women and men. I mean, I know the focus is on women at the moment for for good reason. It should be, but it applies to everybody, of course. And I think that's it. There's a lot of people out there that are just that hidden talent, almost that you to kind of bring out and help them move along. There was a question from somebody on my team, and it's an interesting one. It was about, let me see if I can find this now. You speak about visibility. In your opinion, do you find women oppress their own voice because they're intimidated by men in the workplace? Now, it's an interesting one because, when the workplace was very male dominated, there's always going to be people that are intimidating, right? And there's a lot of women, let's face it, that are extremely intimidating in the workplace. So I guess there is that, but I think that question had its own feel to it. So I thought you would be the best person to answer that one.
Thank you so much, Paul. And just to repeat the question is for women in visibility, is it because men?
Do you find women oppress their own voices because they're intimidated by men?
There are, and thank you for that. There are two things I'm seeing, and I can only speak from my own experience with my own clients. And there's the one, and it's a real one, is the imposter. Ursula, I don't deserve to be on that panel, or because I'm like this minority in the room, you feel even more imposter. So that's why it's really good for women to not be the only woman in the room, to try and get as many there with you. But that is the one. And then there's another one of some women, because they're seeing things that perhaps the men haven't seen. And there might be a generational thing of mostly being men in those positions. And then they start calling things out, but nobody's ever called it out. And that takes so much bravery, Paul. And it's really to start safely calling things out. And because Paul, you're right, there are also the aggressive voices, and sometimes we go because it's so scary, we just go into the aggressive mode. So I do believe that that is part of the shift and what's challenging for women in those spaces.
Okay, and it does, as you say, it needs confidence, and it needs a shift. And I like what Brian said earlier. It's a collaboration. It needs a shift, a change in the mindset, and I guess that's what Better Place to Work are all about. They're trying to shift culture, shift thinking, create non-toxic work environments, and that's what they love doing and thrive doing. And I guess you have the voice for it. Yeah.
And I would love to also learn and to, experience from Better Place to Work's experience or learn what do people in the organization say to being heard, to experiencing others listening to them and how that goes. And I don't know if somebody maybe from Better Place to Work wants to share what they find there.
Mm, okay. Um, Brian.
Look, I think I'll jump right in since I've been asked the question. So,
Right.
look, obviously, our business is focused on cultivating and looking after needs within organizations. That's basically what we do. We try and find solutions to problems that are in businesses. And obviously, diversity and obviously, women leadership is one of those issues all over the world. So we have a host of diagnostics that cover everything. We do have one that covers team performance, for example. And what that does and what it has shown us is that female leadership or women's leadership styles are totally different to men's leadership styles. Unless you have a really dominating woman who wants to change who she is to become part of the male, arrogant style of management, because men can become very arrogant in the way that they manage, whereas women are very empathetic, caring, compassionate. And we've seen big shifts in women's leadership where women actually change the way they want to manage. And like I asked in my question, is what methods do we use to uncover the potential within teams and women's leadership styles? Because what we can't do, I don't believe, going forward, is change the way women lead. In all of our lives over here, and I know there's quite a vast female audience in front of me. So the women lead our homes, women lead our lives, and men are followers. But when men go into business, they're not followers. Men, because that's where they want to play, because that's where they become autocratic and where they can make these big, powerful decisions. And I think the more we can make women lead with empathy and understanding, the safer all business environments will be. I don't know if that answered your question, Ursula.
That was very interesting to also to hear your viewpoints. That's wonderful. Thank you, Brian.
And Brian, if I could just add to what you're offering there, Better Place to Work is a massive listening initiative across the whole of the organization. It really is that powerful. What makes it powerful is it's systemized. We don't just talk about openness, trust, collaboration. We actually create those realities. So I see a massive synergy, Ursula, between what you were chatting about and what Better Place to Work is all about. Yes, play a bigger game. I love the concept of your script, changing that script. It's invisible. Your inner critic, stuff which is really, really important for us to understand individuals within the organization. And to me, this is where a Better Place to Work comes in. It's exactly that agenda, changing that mindset, changing that script, helping people to make that shift and providing them with the resources to be able to do that. Um, and giving everybody that voice, as I said. And I really think it's all about respect, respecting where the individual is coming from. And I love what you were saying. You came up with some really practical, useful ideas in terms of making that shift. So I see a massive synergy, especially as Better Place to Work is all about culture as well, creating openness, trust, collaboration. Because if we want those lines of communication, then trust and collaboration are really, really important. Thank you, Ursula.
Oh, thank you, Shay. Thank you so much. I think it married the two worlds.
Yeah.
but it's awesome what you're doing, Ursula. I completely agree with Shay's sentiments out there. It's amazing. I think we've got a closing question for you. So, in your opinion, Ursula, and I'm dying to know the answer to this, although I've got my own views. Do you think men think that we want to be like them in the workplace? Of course. Good one, right?
It's a great one, and I love that one. Do I think men want us to be like them in the workplace? No, no, and some of the well, I've done a lot of research as well about the way men communicate and how the men are wired and how women are, because I have a lot of respect for men. And there's definitely this partnership that we want to bring. And what I find, especially what some very powerful men have said to me, is women have no idea how powerful they are. And they sometimes just wish that women like knew it even more because that is so necessary. So I believe that men want us to really own all of our strengths because happy wife, happy life, it makes everything better. I hope that answers the question, Paul.
I think it's beautiful, and I think it kind of concurs with what Brian's saying as well. And it's all about what I think we get a lot of. Everybody's looking for authentic leaders, and not someone that's kind of morphed themselves into something that they think they should be to get the results done. They want to bring out, the person inside, awaken some of the sleeping giants out there, Ursula, which it seems like you're doing really well. I'm going to hand you over to Kathy to close off, and it was a lovely session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ursula. That really was very insightful. And I think just even listening to you now, I think a lot of women have got some inspiration and confidence now to take it forward and actually try and change things. And I think it does actually boil down to respect as well, because if men respect women and women respect men, then we can actually work together and we can get the good sides of both genders, sexes, and just work together and make a better team. I think that's really important, yeah. And next week we're going to be having Claire Bosk on, and she will be speaking on her topic is satisfied teams, inspired results. So if you can join us again at 9 o'clock, and thank you for everybody who joined today.